Hey YouTube, it's your boy Widgie here, coming at you with some Stormgate today. This is going to be the first video on the channel. I don't know if I'm going to continue with this. We're going to see how it goes, and without further ado, all I'm going to be doing is hitting that play button. And this, guys, is my first ever ranked game on Stormgate, and I've decided to play the Infernals. So there are two kind of factions in the game at the moment. We have the human Vanguard, and we have the Infernals. And the Infernals kind of play a lot similar to Zerg from StarCraft 2. This game is very, very similar to StarCraft 2, and you can just see by the map layout and also the fact that we only have two types of resources to gather. We also have a civilization, or a faction here, sorry, that works like sort of similar to how Creep works with the Zerg sort of faction from StarCraft 2. So hopefully you guys are going to like this. The replay functionality at the moment is quite limited because it's in beta at the moment. Anyone can play it right now for a limited time only. And of course, all you need to do is go onto Steam and you'll be able to download it and jump straight in. This is the 1v1 versus kind of format. There is cooperative and there's going to be campaign stuff as well. But this is the 1v1, the juicy stuff that we want to see. And you can see what I've done here as the Infernals. I'm going to be gathering, like, you could call it the minerals here. And this is kind of a house to support population. And I'm so new to this game, I don't really fully know what the buildings are called, what the units are called, what even the resources are called. I've kind of forgotten what both the resources are called. I'm not going to lie to you, it is kind of awkward. But we're going to kind of do like a Zerg sort of StarCraft kind of early opening here into a second. I think it's called, is it a shrine? A shrine. I believe it's a shrine. Also called a town center in other RTS games and whatever you want to call it, but the one that generates the workers. And we're going to be putting one down right here. What I love about this game is the functionality, how good it is with accommodating high-level sort of competitive RTS. We have fantastic control grouping in this game. There's auto control grouping that you can enable. You can disable that. The waypoint selection is really nice on some of these buildings. A few things that I would love to see is increase edge scroll speed. This is the scroll speed. For me, that is too slow. So that's something that I would really want to see improved potentially. But anyway, what we're doing is we're going to be getting a couple of military buildings here. Unfortunately, I don't know what they are or what they're called. But of course, we'll stumble through this and hopefully you guys pick the game up and give it a go because I'm just having a lot of fun with it. Anyway, let's have a look at our opponent here. Bottom left part of the map in the blue, it is the human Vanguard faction. And we can see already the opponent here collecting the secondary resource, also known as like the sort of Vespene gas from StarCraft, but it's not called that in this. It's kind of like Tiberium from Command and Conquer. And we can see that he's sort of walling in. Once again, with this game, you can wall in units. I have had quite a few issues with pathing around certain buildings, but I guess that's kind of the way the game plays, and that's how you sort of got to play to the strategy of the map. And we do see certain camps here, and we can see my first units. I think this is called the Brute, I believe. It's just your first kind of basic military unit. It can split into two little minions when it dies, or you can command it to split into two little kind of little nippers, as that's kind of what I call them. I'm sure you guys in the comments below are going to be absolutely wrecking me in chat here, because I have no idea what all these names are. I just do not know at this stage. But I'm going to be dropping down a third shrine here, so I'm really going for the kind of boom. I've seen a lot of people expand onto this area here, and I didn't know. I've only recently known that you can actually chop these down with these workers. So you can actually get them to take down these trees, and then you can set up a third base here, which is closer and it kind of works better. So maybe that's something to do in the future. But the way the human Vanguard faction work, very similar to Terrans from StarCraft 2. But obviously there's a few differences and stuff like that. We have this kind of unit here, which is like a melee style unit, very good at chopping up my basic units that you can see walking around, and it looks like my opponent's going to absolutely beeline it to my base here with a collection of units, and I'm sort of going the other way, and he's already noticed. And I think some of these buildings can transform into defensive structures. We can see that whirling blade there. That's going to be nasty if you if you sort of walk into that. So, and we can see a couple of barracks here, I believe, producing these units. So I'm going to be moving back here. Going to try and get a surround if I can on these units. And you can see I don't perform too well here. And I'm just going to back off here. I'm not going to sacrifice those units. Something interesting with the Infernals, very similar to Zerg from StarCraft 2, is that stuff will instantly spawn for you. However, it takes a while. There's like a recharge. That's with any unit that you make here. So the more military buildings you build, the quicker you get those recharges so you can instantly spawn units. So you have to kind of manage how your macro's going, how many buildings you want to put down. It's not like the human vanguards where you have a building and you can queue up units to produce. It doesn't work like that. So the human vanguards are more of like a vanilla style way of RTS, sort of as an RTS faction would go, whereas Infernals are a little bit different. And you can see here I've built this tower structure. So this tower structure will produce this kind of creep. It's called Shroud. And what it does over time is it actually produces an extra shield on my units. And that's called like the white shield or the white health. And that is basically marked as 25% of your maximum HP of your unit. So if your unit has a HP cap of 100, when you sit under the Shroud, it will slowly build up 25 extra HP. And the minute you leave the Shroud, over time, it will decay. So it makes it harder for opponents to push in on your base because your units are going to be buffed. You see now I'm going to move my brutes in here. And you can just see there, that is one of the abilities that the Infernals have. I think that's a new thing compared to the Alpha. And you can see that tower there firing those whirling blades. And I am going to get stuck here in this corridor. It's going to be really, really advantageous here for my opponent. He's going to be able to deal with me, so I've got to get back here and I've got to think of another plan to try and push into his base. And I'm kind of just really caught in some awkward pathing here, so I'm just going to fight with what I've got, and I'm just going to have to sacrifice these units. And he is actually going to retreat here, but he was doing absolutely fine. I do love how some of the corpses kind of stay here. Look at that nice sort of spinal cord, pelvis and skull left behind there, but that is slowly going to disappear. And let's just hit the pause button just very briefly. Something that I forgot to mention is that you have these camps. You can see that there's one here, a vision camp. So if you destroy this creep or this little unit here, I think it's just like a chicken, kind of strange, but it's a chicken. It will produce a certain amount of vision for a certain amount of time. And that's similar for these resource camps as well. So it encourages you to get out on the map, try and get some map control and not stay in your base forever. And there is a crazy speed camp here as well. And I don't exactly know what that does. I don't know whether it gives you a sort of certain amount of time, like your units that are there, or if you go in that certain area, you have extra speed. I think it's probably the latter, but I can't say for sure. Anyway, I'm going to hit that play button here. And as I say, guys, this is absolutely free right now to play. Get it on Steam, jump in, play whatever. You can play against the AI first, get an understanding of how some of the buildings work, and just jump straight in. This game is really geared to competitive play. It wants to try and mimic the way StarCraft 2 works and how popular that is. However, we got to see this as a separate game to StarCraft 2. Even though there are lots of similarities, there are also quite a few differences with it as well. And we can see that our opponent here is going to try and go for this health camp. And that was unfortunate for him. He's going to have to scurry back here. He's got quite a lot of low HP units. I do have a second unit here. I think this is called the Gaunt, this unit. And it basically flings a projectile and it ricochets. So it bounces onto another enemy. So the more you have in your backline, the more devastating it can be. They can also target air units as well. That's what I found out recently as well. So we do have just two basic unit types here. This is kind of like your first level sort of composition of an army if you're playing the Infernals. We've got these big boys, I think they're called Brutes, and we've got the Gaunts here, and that's basically it. There are other units that you can make. I'm not too sure if we're going to see that in this replay at all, because I can't remember how far I got into it, but there are like artillery type units. There's one flying unit from the Infernal. There's a really slow crawling unit that has a good kind of hook ability that can hook unique or, you know, precious units like this one, for example. this huge mech here from the human Vanguard player. And once again, he's going to go back to that corridor and it's going to cause a problem. However, I do have my gaunts at the back here. Look at that. Ricocheting, doing huge damage. Low HP. Going to use my ability once again to get that shroud and add that extra shield to my units. And I'm really trying to get in here. But this mech is doing absolute work here. You can see it just absolutely just trying to hold the ground here. And it's going to be a real struggle still for me to get in here, and I'm going to have to back off. But look at all the death there and destruction. Look at all the spinal cords, the skulls and the pelvises just lying around on the floor there. A lot of jam on the floor. That's what we love to see. And once again, I'm just reinforcing. This is the fantastic thing about the Infernals, very similar to Zerg once again, is you can just remass. If you have the economy, you have the buildings, you have the charges available, you can just respawn all of the units. And I've gone ahead and put a forward tower down here so I can have permanent shroud here on my units outside of his base. And he's got a few like healing units here. These are like kind of like the medevac style from Terran, but they're mechs basically, and they're not flying units. So a lot of micro can be had here at high level as well, because a lot of these units have secondary abilities. They have abilities that you can enable when you upgrade them. So it really does kind of employ a lot of micro. This game is very micro intensive. The battles are really, really involved. You know, it's not just a classic select army, A move, all that kind of stuff. There's all separate abilities that these units can have, and using them at the right time against the right units, and you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. So this is my artillery unit here. We can see him at the back line. Look at him. He's an absolute monster. Looks like a big old spider. And he's going to be able to, if we get vision here, he's going to be able to siege on these buildings. And something interesting with this siege, with this artillery unit is, you can see there he goes. He was gathering the flaming bull there. When he hits a unit, there's 50% extra damage is applied behind that unit. So you saw it just shoot there. And now we're going to get into it. And you can see once again, it shoots back and it does extra damage. I've got a lot of units outside the base here. He is only stuck. My opponent's stuck on 2 bases, which is fantastic for me. So we're starving him. Look at me on the mini-map. We've got 1 base, we got 2, and we got 3. So our economy is looking way better. We're going to go for a second push here. We've got 2 artillery units now. They're going to try and work on these buildings. And they're going to just try and throw what they can at these units here. One of them does go down, unfortunately. We're going to try once again to get in here if we can. We're going to drop down that shroud ability, but it's instantly going to get destroyed. We're going to just try and work on this corridor if we can to try and take this human Vanguard opponent down. We've got the artillery unit doing absolute work in the background here, trying to do what he can, but they only specialize really against buildings, but they aren't too bad against units, but they're better against buildings. And unfortunately, our opponent once again held off very well, and it's that annoying kind of corridor here that he's made, which is really, really nice. And now he's going to be able to push in, and he's going to be able to push me now. So just a quick pause once again. Now, there is a unit that you can get with the Infernals that is like a transport ship. And when you put it down on the ground, it will produce an element of shroud. And that is something that I could have done. I could have dropped a unit behind the back line here of my opponent, and I could have definitely harassed and dealt some serious damage. But unfortunately, I do not have that knowledge at the time. And yeah, we're just going to have to roll with that. You know, this is like my first game on the beta version. I did play a few games on the alpha version. I can already see that there's a good chunk of changes. So yeah, this is kind of my first game with the MMR rank and everything like that. So it's always nice to see that with a nice RTS. Now, this is definitely a dangerous thing for my opponent, pushing on an Infernal base where there's so much shroud as well and towers, and we have the artillery in the background there as well. Absolutely gonna rip up these units, and we're gonna be able to chase them down with these little sort of creeper units or little minions that split from these brutes. You can see, going to be just nipping at the heels of these Medibots, I'm going to call them. I'm going to give them a name, Medibots, even though that's not their name. I don't even know what it is. But yeah, they're going to be taken down there, but there is now a hefty turret there on the main ramp. We're once again going to put that ability down to give us some shroud, and we're going to try and reinforce as best we can here. And here, we're not looking too hot here, to be honest. There's a lot of units. I don't know why there's lots of Vills in here. These little Vills are called Bobs, and they're in there as well. I'm not too sure why, but they're just getting stuck in. Somehow, we're actually managing to do okay here. I think the Brutes are absolutely doing work. And I think I did get an upgrade for them. I think I got the upgrade where you get 3 of them spawn from 1 rather than 2. And they seem to be doing some work here. And now the artillery is going to be working. Metabots are going down. Is this corridor going to be finally breached for like the 4th time? Are we actually going to be able to get in here? That is the question. My artillery unit's absolutely clutch. Oh, here we go. Here's the big boy. What are we going to call this guy? I don't know. He's very lanky. They are very lanky. But yeah, we can see that he can actually, because he's so tall, he can actually hit over the hill there, which is interesting to know. But they are mega slow units, and now we're going to be able to breach into the base. And it's looking pretty decisive now. He's going to pull the boys. He's going to pull the Bobs to try and get stuck in here. But unfortunately, it is not going to be enough. More lanky dudes coming in. And we're just going to be smacking down the base here. And it's looking pretty over here for my opponent. But a fantastic first game for me on the ranked ladder. Definitely so much learning to do. I still don't know, obviously, what all the units do. I really find it kind of confusing on the building browser, knowing what all the buildings are, because they do look quite similar on the UI. So I do struggle. It would be great if they were like maybe color-coded in a certain way, because I kind of struggle with that a little bit, me personally. But I am slightly colorblind, so who the hell knows? But there it is, guys. And that is, you know when it's a GG, because everyone just stops. That is how primitive the replay functionality is at the moment. But what's fantastic is we have a game that's in beta that actually has a replay function. We have MMR. We have like a proper ranking tier system already in place on a game that's in beta for a very limited amount of time, which is always good to see, because certain games like Age of Empires 4, for example, took ages to actually get a ranked system in play. So that's really nice to see. Anyway, guys, we are going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know down in the comments below if you want to see more of me playing Stormgate. Maybe I might try out the human Vanguard faction, or maybe you want to see more on the Infernals and how to play them. I would definitely be up for giving you guys a beginner's guide on how to play them and all that good stuff. But anyway, guys, I'll catch you in the next video on the next stream. Catch you guys later. Bye!